education, and where we find that the organization of the factors of production or resources so as to maximize the production of goods and services is not going on very well. We have too much unemployment and too little capital. And land is also becoming a problem. We cannot be sure that the free enterprise will really take us there, I think, because free enterprise assumes that you're able to bring all these resources together and produce goods and services, and that you are able to achieve full employment. Now, the weakness of capitalism has been inability to get full employment. Capitalism or free enterprise or laissez-faire, or so some say laissez-faire in French, say laissez-faire. The idea that capitalism will bring about full employment in the long run if you allow free competition and free enterprise, that it will eventually attain full employment. The events of the Great Depression in 1929 to 1937 proved to the Western world beyond doubt that full employment cannot come by itself. The idea that the system will automatically bring about full equilibrium, full employment. Everybody will be employed, everybody will be happy, all products will find more markets at equilibrium prices, demand and supply will be balanced. That is the theory. But John Maynard Keynes said, in the long run, we're all going to be dead. So the idea that capitalism will bring about full employment in the long run, I think, was seen as empty and not feasible. John Maynard Keynes, the famous economist who invented macroeconomics, the one who said, this system will not bring about full employment as you say it will. And if you go do it in the long run, we're all going to be dead. No one wants to wait that long to get it. If you are dead, then what do you want employment for? So, I've said here that the economy is a wild jungle, lost souls. When you come out of secondary school or primary school or university and you don't have a job, you are lost. Excuse me. You're lost. You're like in the forest and you don't know where to go. You're looking up the trees, see maybe a fruit will fall down. You can have something for dinner. But you're in a jungle, you are lost. It's the worst experience. And so the capitalist economic system telling us You just be patient. In the long run, all these things are going to work out. As people invent and innovate and create enterprises, then all these problems will be solved and we shall have full employment. Really? So macroeconomics is an attempt to intervene in the free enterprise system using the state in order to bring about full employment. It is no longer true that the economic system will work itself to full employment without intervention by the state. But now, in the Western system, as advised by Keynes, the state came in to create a demand for goods and services by printing money, by creating debt, so that people could dig holes and then close them again, and then they get paid. Then they go and buy, then they create a demand. Anything that created a demand, but of course that meant that the system had the capacity to produce goods, but those goods were not being sold, and so people were not being employed. But if you could get people to buy the goods, then the producers would employ people, and then the economy would be okay. Now, I do not know, and I do not pretend that I know how to bring about full employment. But while we are trying to figure out what to do and which system to use, whether capitalism or socialism or communism or combination, in the meantime, oh, what happened to the, okay. In the meantime, the youth and the old are walking in the jungle without cover. Investment in social protection is the minimum humane solution. The minimum humane solution. So of course, most of you will be asking, what is social protection? The Ugandans, number one, the Ugandans who are living in a subhuman state, a less than human state. You see them. You see them on the roads, you see them on our streets, you've seen the Karamajong walking naked and hungry. Some may be sick, some may be well, some are homeless. They cannot access basic human needs: food, shelter, medicine, clothing, clean water. Why? Unemployment, disability, old age, natural disasters, orphans, among others. This issue of orphans of HIV, when I was in the 80s and 90s, we lost a lot of people to HIV. Many orphans around, children of the people who died at that time. And when you're an orphan, even the contract you had with your parents, the natural contract, is not there. You are really literally in the jungle, you are lost. And we have very many orphans. Of course, we don't refer to broken homes as orphans, but if the man runs away and leaves the mother to look after the child on her own in Kampala, he's a virtual orphan, that child. And COVID, of course, also created more orphans. The wars, the 20-year war in the north, the wars, the civil war during the 81 to 86. Many people died during Amin's time. So we have many orphans. They don't have land, they don't have that many relatives to look to. So it's a jungle. Some societies, on the left, some societies take the view that the dignity of man is inviolable. You coming to help me? Oh, okay, good idea. Some societies take the view that the dignity of man is inviolable. The dignity of man should not be violated. And therefore access to the basic needs of survival should be assured to everyone. We are all a part of one human family and we are interdependent. Therefore, the dehumanization of any person should be seen as the dehumanization of all members of the society, which is not acceptable to a civilized society. This concept of social security or social protection is shared by all civilized societies, irrespective of whether they are capitalist or communist. This is the idea of social protection, of social security. Taking the time to know every human being in our society. Everyone having a social security number, an account, where were you born, where do you live, what is your income, what is your education, who are your parents. What does it mean to be a citizen? If the country doesn't even know where I live or where I am or that I exist, then what's the point of saying I'm a Ugandan citizen? So what? Who cares? Nobody cares. They don't know where you live. They don't know where you're alive or dead. social protection is saying we know about every person and we care. And there is a minimum standard of living below which no human being should be. How can you say you are proud to be a Ugandan when your fellow Ugandans are eating from garbage can? How do you know you want to be the one next? Next. Okay. So why is social protection justified? Because no Ugandan citizen should be left to live in a subhuman state, a less than human state. No Ugandan should be left to starve to death. No Ugandan should be consistently homeless, sleeping in open air. And no Ugandan should be without basic medical care or health insurance. That's the justification for social protection. Next. Social security, I use them interchangeably. Social security, in America they use social security. That's the term they use. In Europe, social protection. So they're all English. Social security encompasses the security of all members of society. The types of protection required include child protection, unemployment insurance, health insurance, occupational accident insurance, old age insurance, or pension insurance, veterans insurance. When I was doing research on this subject, I went to Germany because this is where the idea of social security started. And I was surprised when you get pregnant in Germany, you start getting a state allowance for the child, and you continue to get it after production, irrespective of who you are, whether you are big or small. You get paid, the state pays you in order to look after the child. There's an allowance. So I interviewed the head of social protection in Germany, and he said, for us in Germany, we believe that no German citizen should be allowed to fall into a subhuman state. I wish that could become our view. That no Ugandan citizen should be permitted to fall into a subhuman state. And we form a political party and we struggle for it. Next. How to finance Social Security is, of course, an important question. Some of the ways that Social Security may be financed include deductions from employees' wages. That's what we are doing here in Social Security. And isn't it good that our Social Security institution is now the most powerful financial institution in Uganda? 22 trillion? NSSF. That shows you where we can go. Now we need to include everyone in that system. But then after doing that, I tried this when I was Minister of Finance, but I was not there long enough. Instead of when you become 50 or 55, they give you a lump sum. Because when people get lump sum, they go to do business and they lose everything and they are back to zero. So you give a little. I worked in America for more than 10 years, so I am entitled to Social Security. Every month, my account gets credited with a certain amount of money. It's not much, but I will not starve, even though it is little. It's enough to buy a portion of beans. So deductions from the employees' wages, deductions from employers, we do both here. Government taxes, tax contributions, profits on pension funds, when pension funds are invested. Some of that money of NSSF is profits from the investments, personal insurance, private savings and wealth accumulations, and combinations of above means and other methods. One of the core requirements of economic policy is to create real opportunities for all citizens to access income legally and ethically over their entire lifetime. Okay, you are asking me about economic policy. Here it is. One of the core requirements of economic policy is to create real opportunities for all citizens to access income legally and ethically over their entire lifetime. You should all remember this. So you say, what's the purpose of economic policy? So first and foremost, create real opportunities for all citizens to access income. An environment of massive unemployment, such as we have, and widespread corruption, is inherently unstable. It breeds immorality, and citizens are forced to resort to theft, robbery, murder, and rebellion in order to survive. Are we seeing this around us? Absolutely. This is undesirable and unsustainable. So what is the solution? Next. This is a proposal that I have. After I left the Ministry of Finance, I was privileged to get a fellowship as a distinguished fellow at the Brookings Institution in Washington, D.C. This is a think tank, one of the leading think tanks in the world. And that's why I wrote the book on advancing the Ugandan economy, a personal account. And one of the chapters in that book is oil, a blessing or a curse, based on the experiences of many countries where oil has either been a curse, if it's not properly managed, or a blessing, if it's properly managed. And so, since we have oil, we thank God for oil. It's 6.5 billion barrels so far discovered, and probably more on the way. And there are also other minerals, gold, phosphates. I don't know what it is. Is there a way we can use these resources to provide social protection? So I'm suggesting that oil revenues may be a blessing or a curse, but could also be an opportunity for full employment and social protection. Next. Will the Uganda government have access to oil revenues? Yes. Oil companies will pay the government of Uganda an amount of money equal to about 65% of the balance from the oil exports after cost. In addition, the companies are required to pay a tax on their profits, on the oil profits, and the royalty payment for mining the oil in Uganda. All these payments could amount to as much as 80% of the total value of the oil exports of Uganda. Next. I've made an oil revenue illustration, a calculation. For example, suppose that the companies pump and sell 200,000 barrels a day and receive about $80 per barrel. This means that the value of this oil will be $16 million a day. 200,000 times 80. Assume a cost per barrel is $30. Then daily oil revenue after cost would be 200,000 times 50, which will be 10 million. That's the gross profit, if you like. If the government takes 65% of this, that will amount to $6.5 million a day. In a month, this will come to 195 million, and in a year, the total will be $2.34 billion. $2.3 billion per annum. It's just an illustration. You can do your own calculation and come up with your own figures. The prices of oil keep changing. But the oil agreements are there. You can study them so that you are informed. Next. We can have a more optimistic oil revenue scenario in which instead of 200,000, production is boosted 500 barrels a day. And instead of the price I used, on top of this, the price of oil in September 2023, when I did this example, this presentation, price was $90 a barrel at that time. And based on that calculation, and the final line, this amounts to 26 trillion shillings per annum. $7 billion per annum. It's an optimistic scenario. The other one was a more conservative scenario. So just giving you an idea. Yes, go ahead. We must beware the oil costs and corruption. As the oil money flows into the national treasury, many people are likely to attempt various schemes to illegally divert it in their direction. That is, to steal the money. Does anybody doubt this? Can we trust you with the money and not worry? Such corruption, of course, will not be limited to the central government or to any specific government ministry. 3, every governmental jurisdiction in Uganda is likely to be affected, from the central government in Kampala to local governments. And so too will be private entities that receive contracts for public projects financed by the oil money. Should corruption become endemic, the country is likely to squander its oil windfalls and get little or no real development out of them. Social protection is as important as public goods. Let me explain, just to be public goods are goods which are normally produced by government or supplied by government, as opposed to private companies or private individuals. So roads are public goods, defense is a public good, bridges are public goods, justice is a public good, because no single company can build roads without government giving them a contract. So the reason why we have government is because we need public goods. There are certain things that individual companies cannot provide. And some conservatives believe that we should minimize government by minimizing public goods. But the socialists believe we should maximize public goods. So government has produced public goods. Can one safely say that it is all right for the government to accumulate billions of dollars in an oil fund at the Bank of Uganda or abroad to hold for future generations, when current generations of men, women, and children are going without food, medicine, and shelter? I believe that our future generations are more deserving than today's poor Ugandans. I believe that this issue requires more debate throughout Uganda. In other words, the current arrangement or thinking or policy is that we shall have a fund in which we shall accumulate money from oil. And some of it, of course, will be used, but some of it will build a fund for the future and for future generations. That's the thinking, and that's the law, and that's the arrangement. I'm saying you have people who are on the streets who have no food, no home, and they are accumulating billions and billions in the Bank of Uganda and in foreign companies, the pension funds or whatever. Is it correct? Should think about it. Lessons from Alaska and Norway. Both Alaska and Norway are major oil producers. To ensure that both present and future generations of Alaskans benefit from the state's oil wealth, the Alaska government created a permanent fund in which about 20% of the royalties paid by the oil companies to the government are deposited, 20%. The money in the fund is managed and invested on behalf of the people of Alaska by professional investment firms. Earnings from the funds are distributed to all the citizens of Alaska, all, every year, based on the fact that it is the citizens who own the state's mineral wealth, which of course includes the oil. You've heard of the state of Alaska? This is alone in the northwest of America. I'm told they bought it from Russia. And so there it is, and it has oil. And doesn't have a big population, but they decided that at least 20% of the oil money is deposited for the people. And the profits are shared every year so that everybody gets something from it. That's the Alaskan model. Next. The Norway, oil revenue management in Norway, in the case of Norway, the taxes and other payments from the oil companies to the government have been placed in a fund called the Norwegian Pension Fund Global. These funds are also managed by professional investment managers, and earnings from these funds are used to pay pensions for the people of Norway. Under this program, citizens of Norway are guaranteed pension income once they reach old age. Pension guarantee for everyone.
On the issue of that fund, one time I participated in a meeting in Norway, and they had invited us to discuss how that fund is being invested, whether it's good for the global economy. Some were saying that those investment funds, companies are investing their money in buying arms, killing people. But what I'm saying is that democracy, or even discussing where this money is being invested.
At least, yeah. We can debate that, but the end result, if the profitable investor, we all share. Yeah. I think this is a dream for Uganda. We can also be allowed to dream that we could also have a good pension for our old people and the disabled. And all of us are going to be old one day, hopefully. So we should unite with one voice and demand that the old and the disabled be protected from destitution. Next. I think we can. The idea is to the Uganda Petroleum Wealth Fund, which should be professionally managed, should provide for a social protection fund, which would cover pensions, orphans, the disabled, the unemployed, the aged, and other economically vulnerable groups. That's the idea. Why we need a referendum on the use of oil money? Through a referendum, the people can be asked if they would like to receive shares in a permanent fund that would grant them the right to gain directly from the fund's earnings. Next. Why we need a referendum on oil money? With that fund in place, all citizens will benefit from the country's oil wealth and would be allowed to participate in the decision on how to allocate it. That's what Jane was talking about. Well, we need a referendum on oil money. The decision on how to spend oil royalties should not be made exclusively by civil servants and politicians. Next. Well, we need a referendum on oil money. Only a participatory, inclusive, people-driven, and bottom-up, that is democratic decision-making process can ensure that the oil wealth is allocated efficiently, non-corruptly, and equitably. Well, we need a referendum on oil money. Once the citizens are made shareholders in the fund, they will be free to meet annually, to select directors, and to receive an accounting from the managers of the fund. This is their money. We can and should learn from Alaska. These ideas will not be popular with the politicians and bureaucrats who would like to have a stronghold monopoly on the management and investment of the oil revenue. However, the oil is the people's property, and the decision on how to dispose of it is ultimately their right. The people of Alaska have shown that such participatory management of a public resource can be undertaken through a democratic process, and that the process can be managed equitably and efficiently. There is no reason why Ugandans could not attempt to benefit from the experiences of Alaska and Norway. To 50% of the net revenue from oil could be placed at the disposal of the people. In my estimation, as much as 50% of the net revenue from oil could be placed at the disposal of the people of Uganda by means of a Uganda Petroleum Wealth Fund. Political unity is required to make oil the blessing of Uganda. Opposition parties should embrace the general outline of this blueprint with enthusiasm rather than turn it into a disruptive political football. It will be groundbreaking for the incumbent government and the opposition to stand shoulder to shoulder to maximize an opportunity that at best arises once in a lifetime. Such cooperation will be rewarded with the greatest of gratitude on the part of the people of Uganda, recognizing that for once, politicians refuse to turn a blessing into either a totalitarian or a sectarian curse. The people of Uganda should have their full say in a nationwide vote. Without such pressure for full participation in deciding this matter, a precious opportunity for Uganda to take steps toward prosperity for all may well be lost. But if all Ugandans were to join hands in taking determined action, Ugandan oil wealth would truly turn into a blessing for the whole country in all its segments. Nothing will be handed to anyone on a silver platter. I do believe that if the people of Uganda were given the opportunity to choose, they would overwhelmingly opt for the 50-50 division of oil revenue between the people and their government. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor, for that very insightful presentation and the earlier keynote that you gave. We've truly learned a lot and appreciated where we've come from as a country, but also you've tickled our minds in a number of areas. And where you ended, nothing comes on a silver platter. So it's actually more of a call to action for all of us to interest ourselves in these issues and also make our contributions, because today we are talking about how investment policies can foster decent work, bring jobs, and also sustainable development. And the issues that Professor has elucidated on are within that framework. And of course, looking at the opportunities amidst us, we have an opportunity of oil and gas from the presentation that has been made. We have that opportunity, but how we use it determines how we achieve the development aspirations. It's not a given that when you have oil, your future is secure and it's sorted. It's not. Of course, there are challenges. He elucidated on corruption that is likely to, of course, curtail our efforts to achieve some of our development aspirations. And that is very critical for you, all of us as young people to make our voices heard in these policy processes. Of course, Professor was challenging us to be interested in politics. And at Seatini, we truly don't do the other side of politics, but we truly call upon politicians to do politics that is connected to the economy. Because politics as an end in itself doesn't deliver much. But if it's connected to the economy, then it can deliver on our development aspirations. And I know time is of essence. And now is the time for all of us to share some of the insights that we have, but also views, comments, ask questions. But before we get to that, I request that we give a round of applause, a befitting round of applause. Thank you so much, Professor. So now the floor is open. I am now the speaker of this parliament.
I request that they use the microphone.
Yes, thank you. So the floor is open. You introduce yourself, name, the institution, maybe the discipline, the course that you're doing, and then the question.
Thank you, the speaker and the moderator. I want to thank Professor for your presentation. My name is Asharaho. I do Bachelor's of Science in Land Economics, that is valuation surveying, 4th year. I want to ask a question about the oil extraction you talked about in your last slides. You gave us highlights on Norway and Alaska and how they have been able to transit in this process and provide social protection for their people. But to note that those countries are first-class countries, and as Uganda, being a developing country, we are still struggling to go to middle income. We are facing quite many challenges, and we have seen many companies in petroleum coming up, but I want us to be a little realistic about what is really happening in Uganda and the examples we can relate with. So I was praying that you could help us, give us how Nigeria, how Libya has done it, because they are the examples we have in Africa. So how we can relate, because we quite have some problems. We have political instability, we have corruption. So I think there could be more of better examples than Alaska and Norway. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Professor, you've really enlightened us more, and I really feel I've picked a lot from this presentation of yours. My name is Sarah Aloyo, the 27th Guild Education Minister from Makerere University Business School. I pursue a bachelor's degree in procurement and supply chain management, and I am in my 3rd year. My question is, Prof, do you think the good old days could ever come back? The good old days, I mean the periods of 1960s. That is, we had, at independence, our GDP was slightly above 68 million US dollars. And in just 4 years to 1966, our GDP had grown to $108 million. But currently, Uganda's GDP is at 50 million US dollars. Do you think the good old days could ever come back? Thank you.
Professor, my name is Simon Oktela from the New Vision. I would just like to pick your mind on something. When you said PDM was rushed, do you think we can have it taken back to what it was initially meant to be? Simon from the New Vision. Simon.
I'd like to get a clarification from Professor again, just a reelaboration on the aspect of the concept of national economic planning, but mainly with regards to what you talked about, the macroeconomics and global economics. Reason is, my brother and I have our research, which is going to be around taxation law, because our interest is in taxation law. So we'd like to get clarity on that specific discussion that you had earlier. Thank you. I hope I'm not, okay. We just wanted clarity on the earlier submission you had made with regards to the concept of national economic planning, especially in line to the macroeconomics discussion offline. If there is a way you can relate it back to the Ugandan tax regime, it would help us best. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Professor. My name is Nansano Chantel, a graduate trainee at Seatini, Uganda. I had a question in regards to the oil, where in CARS 15, Total Energies 62%, CNOC and CNOC 8%. How are we going to come to the 65% profit from these percentages? And also, will the rest come from taxes? And in addition to that, the estimated cost of building this pipeline was estimated to be 3.5 billion US dollars, but now it's 5 billion US dollars. So how will it be paid back? And will it have interest? And how will that affect our earnings in the long run from the oil in Uganda? Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Professor. My name is Ampare Hannah Teresa. I am from Makerere University Business School, pursuing a bachelor's in international business. And the topic of discussion was quite interesting today, beginning from the very first presentation to social protection. But I have two questions. The first one being around economic policies. So if economic policies are those that are meant to create great opportunities for all citizens in the country, then, and we are looking at a jobless economy at the moment, then where is our government going wrong? And how can we, the young people, be able to bring a change? Then two is, we have looked at social protection and we learned about a human state and a subhuman state. As young people, where is our stand in building this human state that we dream of, where all citizens know each other, embrace each other, and we have all heard of the American dream, something like that, where if you kill one American, then you have attacked all of them. And Africans, somehow we have not embraced that kind of thinking. Somehow we are all against one another. Why don't we come back to the round table and start to think different? That my neighbor is my friend, my neighbor is my brother, and we're in the struggle together. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much, Professor, for your presentation. I just had one question. My name is Prosper Athamakai. I'm a finalist from MOOPS. Yeah, so before your presentation, you had talked about everyone having gifts, and I was just wondering, is there a way to have economic policies that enable people to use their gifts to enhance social protection? Thank you.
Professor, I have one more question in regards to her point for social protection. How much money is being allocated in our budget towards social protection?
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Semanda Kennedy Kutesa. I am the Guild Speaker of Cavendish University, Uganda. Semanda Kennedy Kutesa. Yep. Professor, thank you so much. You've clearly elucidated your submissions, and I truly appreciate. I, however, have two questions, actually. Because you talked about the economic reforms and the monetary reforms that you did back then, and they were really fantastic. But then, I haven't heard anything about the tax reforms. I don't know whether you would truly be interested to pleasurably listen to my question, which is about what is your opinion about the tax reforms that are being introduced? For instance, IFRIs to the business community, whereby how will it affect tax compliance and will do away with tax evasion? My second question will come on to the social protection policies. How has the government made sure that these policies are implemented? For instance, we recently had a situation about the Chitezi people, where the waste almost killed many people. I'm not very sure about the specifics, but I don't know whether they reach 100 people died. And I was interested to research about other countries, how other countries have truly managed to make or come up with their waste management policies. For example, maybe Singapore. Is the government really intending to introduce such waste management policies so that we don't really experience the situation like that happened in Chitezi? Thank you so much.
as opposed to the current plan of investing revenues in infrastructure. I want to know, if it went to social protection, what happens when the revenues stop flowing, perhaps in the next 25 years, as most people are saying? I thought investing in infrastructure would be investing in something more lasting. I just need your clarification.
It's super fast internet. Oh, it's a super camera. It's a super battery.
Phone battery full.
Yeah, it's a super deal. Get the Capote Super from MTN now at a reduced initial deposit of only 49,000 shillings and pay the balance in Pola for as low as 833 shillings per day. Grab this Super Capote deal this Christmas and get 2 GB of free MTN data every month for 8 months. Get the Capote Super now from any MTN shop countrywide. Everywhere you go, MTN. Regulated by UCC.
I'm not saying that it should go 100% into social protection. The balance that is left will be available for other government activities, including infrastructure. Of course, in every country, infrastructure is important. Defense, security is important. And governments spend most of their time concerned with these areas of public goods. I think the risk that we're trying to deal with is that people are easily forgotten, especially the ordinary people who have no influence, they have no voice. The idea that you vote once every 5 years, and so we are democratic and everybody has equal rights is empty. So I vote, then what? Do I eat voting? I eat, you go, I vote, and you go and eat. So we try and come down to earth. And as I said, it's good that both communist and capitalist systems appear to agree on this idea of social protection. The Scandinavian countries, the Germans, the Chinese, the Russians, the Americans, they are at least all seem to agree. So really the question is more on how civilized are you that you value every citizen. You come to the point where every citizen is respected and valued and helped. Of course, humanity has been evolving over time. There was a time when the king and the upper class, they are in charge, they are the ones who have everything, everyone else is a slave. We are a landlord and everybody is working for you. We've been through those times. But as humanity progresses, as we in Uganda progress, whatever the word progress means, it will be, I would like to see progress as increased humanitarianism. That the life of every citizen is valued, and we are not allowing our people to be like animals or worse. Because when you have your cows, you also take good care of them. You don't just allow them to suffer outside in the rain and so on. But we recognize that we have orphans, that we have homeless people, we have disabled people, and we do something about it. Now, Shabaho wanted the case of Nigeria and Libya. These are good examples. Nigeria, unfortunately, has been a case of where oil is a curse. The huge corruption and concentration of wealth. To the extent, I remember, I think it was 1995 when I went to Nigeria. Would you believe they were short of oil, of petrol in Nigeria? They were exporting, they are the biggest exporter of oil in Africa. One of the top exporters in the world, and they don't have oil themselves for their home consumption. And I said, well, what's going on? Oh. They said, oh, because they're controlling prices, oil was being smuggled to the neighboring countries. Because the prices were low in Nigeria, so people would come and buy all the fuel and take it to Niger and other neighboring countries. But still, that's not an excuse for not being able to manage your wealth. Libya, I think, had gone a long way.
Smart 24, driving business.
mwaka 2024 kansubire anti olunaku lutambulidde ddala bulungi nnyo sofa nga lufuniddemu ebizibu nyongera okubanga nkugumya nogamba embeera gy'oyitamu teri agisobolanga mukama katonda nawe sofa nga ebintu bitambulidde ddala bulungi nnyo nyongera okubanga nkusanyukirako katonda wezijjidde ku mpewo tukyali butereevu nyaawo balafa ba Seatini bategese omusomo okwongera okulaba nga bakubaganya ebirowoozo ku butya gavumenti yeyinza okulaba nga egatta abavubuka mu policies ze bakola ate era kw'oteekana okulaba nga abavubuka beenyigira nnyo mu bintu by'obukulembeze n'ebintu eby'enkulaakulana okwongera okulaba nga bakyusa eggwanga era ndowooza omwerabiddeko awo tulaba Profesa Ezra nga abaako ebintu bingi nnyo byayogera okuba nga attaanya naddala ebyekuusa ku nkulaakulana y'abantu badde mulabako awo ng'agamba naga bannange enkola eno yaleetebwa eya parish development model yaleetebwa bwangu kyovola abannayuganda batono nnyo abakyasobodde okubanga bagiganyulwamu kubanga engeri gye yajjamu yali yamangu abannayuganda tebagitegera bulungi enkola eno enkola etya ayina kuba abantu bafuna abatya ssente balina kukola batya bazikenne nga bazifunamu okusomesebwa kugamba waliwo kubanga bapakukira kubanga bakola ebintu kyekyavira okulaba nti enkola eno tejumbiddwa nnyo batemunaba kuvaamu bibala birungi mbadde ndabako awoloozera ndowooza bumwetekereza aba akyagenda ddala maaso okwongera okubanga ate ng'ayanja ensonga nyingi ez'enjawulo njagala nsooka ezireyo bwe nnaakomawo twongere okutunuulira ku biki binaaba bivudde mu kuteesaganya oba mukubaganya ebirowoozo okwo okwaba naffe aba Seatini Uganda kwe balimu n'abakugu ab'enjawulo okwongera okulaba nga butya abavubuka bayinza okuba nga beenyigira mu policy making kwoteka n'okutumbula ebyenfuna mu ggwanga lyaffe erya Uganda.
The road was so bad that my back started giving way. So I stopped going. I said, I'm not going back home until the road is made because I'm going to lose my back. But now, of course, I'm in danger of losing my life. Now that the road is good, the speeds are so high. So I don't think we solve problems by, well, we can learn from history, but I think we have to look forward. We have to look forward and see how we can achieve full employment and social protection. Simon, the PDM was affected by politics. How can we go back to the original model? I used to be in the Prime Minister's office as head of the Prime Minister's delivery unit to improve service delivery. And the major problem that countries face, not only ours, but many countries, is implementation. Policy, there are many policies in the books, on the shelves, but there is little implementation capacity. And that's part of implementation failure is inability to prioritize. Government attempting to do everything when it has very little resources. Imagine if it is you. You want a new dress, you want new shoes, you want a better apartment, you want to send a gift to your parents, and yet you have only 10,000 shillings. It's not, you have to prioritize. You have to decide which is most important and focus on that. And when you get more resources, you can deal with the next number 2 on your list. If you try to do everything, you end up by doing nothing. So prioritization, policy implementation of PDM is a big problem. We need to take, even in PDM, you have to prioritize. And I think there are 7 pillars, but I think we probably should start with 1 or 2 pillars. One, increasing agricultural productivity and marketing is the most important pillar. But of course that requires some financial resources or capital. So having financial institutions which can effectively manage that money is a big problem. I thought that this is a good time for us to have a national financial institution that reaches every parish. What an opportunity. This 100 million would be enough capital for a bank in every parish as capital. And that capital now, every time that the government sends that 100 million, it will be adding to the capital of that parish. That money would be a permanent investment for increasing the capital of that parish to grow and grow and grow. Now you send it, I don't know, by air, literally, before it reaches, it has disappeared. And they say, people are eating the money. How do you expect money? Money is handled by banks, financial institutions. You give it to me, you say, Suruma, now you take this to my uncle in West Nile, and I don't have anything to eat, and you expect me to just carry the money? How? So institutions are very important, and PDM needs institutions, permanent ways of solving problems in a systematic, organized way, institutions. So if we emphasize this, so in every parish you find not only a church, but also a bank, also a cooperative, a school. We can design a model parish, and we can design it in such a way that it provides for all the people in the parish and employs everybody in the parish to do something for the community. And I think this is how young people, you can start to solve the problems of Uganda. When you sit here and look over Uganda, you don't see it. It's abstract. But where you are, where you are born, where you come from, where your parents are, this is tangible. It's tangible. You can speak to these people. You can start in a small way there. And you can build this institution. It's like starting to build. You put a brick, and then another, and then another. Someone puts another. And, in time there will be a building. But you don't say, Banange, I only have one brick. What is the use of this? And you give, no, brick by brick, brick by brick, one by one makes a bundle. Parish by parish, we can build the country. Clarification of national economic planning versus macroeconomics. It's a bit complicated, but I think there is no contradiction, actually. Of course, the standard of macroeconomics is based on the capitalist assumptions of markets. And the government comes in to stimulate demand. It provides funds to universities and institutions. It provides contracts for roads, for various types of things. So this was putting money in the economy, which people get and buy, and the economy starts growing. So the macroeconomic, classical macroeconomics works like that. Basically through the government can borrow money from the central bank and issue bonds and so on. And of course, taxation and so on. Planning, national planning, it varies. Our national planning in Uganda is based on this assumption of free enterprise. Some things are done by government, others are done by the private sector. Of course, when you plan for the private sector, you're not likely to get far because you don't dictate to them what they should do. But you can stimulate them, you can give them incentives. So my suggestion would be more on programming. which is, I believe, what the countries like China and others are doing. They are programming. In other words, if you go to parish, for example, you know how many people there in the parish. There are 5,000 people. You know how many are in school, how many are under 5, how many are between 5 and 10, and so on. How many are over 75 or over 65? You know the food that is required for them every day and every week and every month and every year. So you program for how many people therefore are needed to produce this food, how much money is needed, how much seed is needed. So this is kind of programming is necessary so that things are not done by chance. Because if it's not, somebody has to do it. You can do it as a company, can be doing all of this as a company, but the company is concerned with only company matters. But if you are concerned with the whole parish, somebody has to do programming for food, for construction, for shelter, for water, and so on, so that there is, and this will be the basis for employment. So I want to go beyond economic planning to economic programming. I hope you follow me. In other words, macroeconomic planning, sitting here in Kampala and saying, oh, West Nile, okay, road, maybe 1,000 kilometers of roads in 20 years' time. This is on paper only. The implementation doesn't seem to actually be there. We thought if we brought the planning to Ministry of Finance, it would work, because now what we plan, we would finance, but it has not worked. Some people now want to take it back to its own ministry. Chantel, how do we get 65% of oil? I'm basing my calculations on the oil sharing agreement. We have an oil sharing agreement with the oil companies, and that specifies what percentage, how much goes into costs, how much we share after paying the costs, and so on. So you can review the, as far as I am aware, that oil agreement is there and is in place. I'm not sure that it has been changed. So these other companies coming in and so on, and I don't think they change the oil sharing agreement. So we, as a country, we are entitled to a certain proportion of the oil revenues. And those are the ones that I'm saying we should put into, excuse me. Yeah. So I know the building, the pipeline and so on has its own costs and so on. I think all those have to be taken into account before deciding the net amount remaining to be shared between Uganda and the oil companies. How can we change joblessness? This is Teresa, the state of brotherhood possible? I don't know. I think you are in a better position to answer the question than I am. It's an ideal. We believe in love. Love God and love your neighbor. And that's very important, because if we don't love one another, then we go to war with one another. And we should never underestimate the role of love, starting with the family, the man and the wife, producing a child, loving the child, work together. Love means sacrifice. When you are young, you think of love as affection and enjoyment, and that's deception. That's what I think Satan was using against Eve in the Garden of Eden. Deception. You only see the surface. But the reality of life is sacrifice. Love is sacrifice. You, first of all, humbling yourself before God, your creator. You didn't create yourself. Some of us think we created ourselves. I don't know how they happen to know that. But humbling ourselves before God and caring for our neighbor is fundamental to human existence. Without it, war and more and fighting. And it's all around us. So I can only pray that this love would be in all of us in place of war. Can economic policy favor people's gifting? I hope so. I think that when you're using your gifts, why did God give you the gifts? It's not only for yourself, but for your children, for your neighbors, for your wife, your husband, your neighbors, people you live with, the community. So these gifts are intended to be used to build to build the community, to build the lives of all the people that we are with. But that's a complicated question. We are continually discovering ourselves and also realizing that there are gifts we have that we don't know that we have. And when we see them, we need to really use them. You know, when someone gives you a gift, what do? You say thank you, isn't it? But better still, you give something back to show that you really are grateful. If I see that God has given me a gift of life today, then let me use that gift also to give back to Him and to give to His people. That's how you show that you are really thankful, by giving back. And you're giving back something of value, shows that you are really grateful. But to receive and you don't give back, in my language you say akeba kazwanya mugarura. If a basket goes to a person who returns something in the basket, if people know that when they bring you a gift you don't put anything in them, they will not bring the baskets to you. So it's a very big subject, but a very important one. On the budget question, I think, Chantel, I don't know. I haven't done a recent. Last time, when I gave that paper last year, the amount of money going to social security in the budget was very, very small, like 15 billion. But I don't know how much it is now. Oh, that's an improvement. But it's peanuts. It's peanuts. Tax reforms, as Kenneth. Tax reforms today, if recent. I'm not up to date on what's going on in the taxation world. The commissioner of URA is my friend, actually. We used to work closely together, but I have not bothered him, and he doesn't bother me. So his people write to me to pay my taxes, and I do. And I leave it there. I'm not in a position to answer that question on the current state of taxation. It sounds to me like maybe we need to be putting more emphasis on increasing incomes and on increasing taxes. Because after all, the president has always once said that this indirect taxation on commodities, on water, what have you, is more effective. But that, because some...
buterefu olukiiko oba okubaganya ebirowoozo by'okutuuka ku kyagendera ddala mu maaso bannaffe aba Seatini bakyakulembeddwa mu ndowooza yabiddeko Professor Ezra Suramu ng'ayongera okuba ng'akuba tooki mu nsonga nnyingi ez'enjawulo zimubuuziddwa ku bitundu ebyenjawulo kyejagaddemu agenze n'agamba nti amawanga ga Africa agasinga yes twafuna obwetwaze naye butuufu tetulina bwetwaze kubanga amawanga g'abazungu gakyayongera okuba nga gakyatulagira ki ekyokukola so ndabika Professor bagamba nti kyetulina okukola tulina okulaba nga bwe tuba tugamba nti tulina epeni tulina okukola nga tuyimirira ku bigere byaffe olwo tubeeko ekyenjawulo kyetukola naye nga bwe tubikyatambula tukyaliyo nnyo okwongera okulaba bannaffe aba Seatini abo kye bateeseteese okubaganya ebirowoozo ku butya bannaffe abakulu naddala balina obuyinza gavumenti gyeyinza okulaba nga eyinvolvinga abavubuka mu ngeri gye bakolamu emirimu gyabwe gamba programs ez'enjawulo ate n'ebintu ebirala nga bwe bitambula kw'oteeka n'okuba nga ebintu by'emirimu abaana nga bafuna emirimu nkyalidde Dr. Kiwalabe bwe tukyatulira program Uganda tubeerawo okuva Monday tukenda olunaku lwa Lwakutaano ssaawa 7 paka ssaawa 9 nga tuli kwa tooki mu nsonga nnyingi ez'enjawulo bingi nnyo ebikyagenze maaso mu ggwanga ebikyatuuseewo naye njagala okusooka nkutwalako omulango bakambafe bwe nkomawo sooke nkwongere ku mawulire mayitirivu nyo gweteekeddwa okuba ng'omanya njagala tutunulire ne wiiki ebyobulambuzi gye twayingiddemu ng'emikolo emikulu gigenda kubeera eyo e Kasese bwe nkoma okatandikiraawo ng'ate bwe tulinkinga okuba tuli wano bwe tubeera eri twagala byonna byonna n'engeri gye tuli nti TV ya bya busuubuzi byonna nga tubikuwa